Hi guys, it's been a while since I've seen you all. I hope you're having a great week at the moment. I know we haven't had a video out for a while and completely missed doing them. I've really missed being in the studio, working on these for you guys. Unfortunately, COVID took us out for 2 weeks. And before that we had the mold. So pretty much the week we got mold, we also got COVID. And we finally come out of isolation yesterday. We have one person left in isolation today and they get to come out tomorrow. So super excited. We get to go shopping this weekend. Alright, so this week we're looking at a gorgeous artist by the name of Frida Kahlo. She is a surrealist artist. She is a surrealist artist who over 50% of her works were created as self-portraits. She was born in... Frida Kahlo was born on the 6th of July 1907 and she died on the 13th of June 1954. She was born and raised in Mexico, and most of her career she spent moving around America, so Los Angeles, all the way through back down to Mexico. She followed her husband Diego, who was also a very famous muralist at the time. So he used to do the big paintings that you'd find on the sides of buildings. We see murals these days on like the sides of the road. So if you're driving down the highway and there's like a really cool painting down the highway, they're often used to deter graffiti. So they beautify the place, make it look great, and by making it look great, graffiti artists are less likely to tag a piece of work that's already done, as it goes against their ethics. So Frida Kahlo would move around America and Mexico. Following her husband, he got her a number of exhibitions throughout Mexico and America. She's one of these artists who really, her fame didn't really take off until after she died. So she was well known, and she was selling works while she was alive, but her popularity and her fame really skyrocketed after her death. So she has quite a sad backstory, if I'm honest. As a child, she was a sickly child. She had polio, which left her with a limp in one of her legs. And then as she grew, she was left with a lot of pain and other side effects from the polio. But it wasn't until she was hit by a bus. She was riding in the bus, just minding her own business. The bus crashed, and one of the poles that you hold on to when you're on the bus broke away, and it speared right through her into her gut. It went through her uterus, through the spine, causing a horrendous amount of internal injuries. So it's not very nice to think of. But from there, she really took on painting and used art as a way of self-expression, and almost as a way of what we would consider today art therapy. So it's where you work out, you put your feelings onto canvas, and you work through, and you let things go, you take things on. It's like a two-way conversation with yourself. So she would put all of these things into her work. So as a result of the accident, she ended up in hospital for 3 months in a full body cast. So she couldn't move, she was bedbound, she was getting quite bored, and her parents decided that they would bring her some painting equipment. So they brought her some boards, some paper, some paint, some drawing pencils, and to fill in time, this is where her career started. So that by the end of it, she would, when she didn't have any materials to draw on, she would draw on these full body casts, and she would decorate them, she would make them fun, and she would spend time, instead of just sitting doing nothing, which can be really boring in the hospital, she would make things around her happier. So that's just a brief overview of her life. As she progressed forward, as you can imagine, she had so much pain. She had pain through the rest of her life, lots of surgeries to try and correct what was going on with her spine. She was able to regain walking skills and able to become mobile again, but by the end of her life she was restricted to her bed. And one of the most famous outings that she did was to her final exhibition. The doctors told her she was not allowed to get out of bed. She could not go anywhere. She couldn't attend the exhibition. She couldn't even get up to go to the toilet. Like, she was bedridden. And so she was so determined to get to this exhibition, she had her bed brought to the exhibition. So she did not leave her bed. She left her bedroom, but she did not leave her bed. She was completely still in bed. And that is one of the most famous things that she is known for. And it just goes to show how much determination she had to just overcome any obstacles thrown in her way. She knew what she wanted, she went for it. Okay, so the mediums that Frida Kahlo used were oil paints on canvas or masonite board. So canvas is what you and I have been working on. It's fairly cheap. Back then though, it was quite expensive, so she would also use masonite board, which is a nice smooth timber. It gives a different effect when it's finished, so you don't see. So if you're looking at a canvas, so this is one that we're working on, you can kind of see marks in the canvas where of the linen. You don't get that with painting on board. It's a much smoother, very different experience. It's almost like silk. Anyway, that's enough from me. Let's jump into the painting. We're going to need our canvas, fresh water, cloth, paintbrushes. I'll explain the paintbrushes as we go. I think we're using about 3 paintbrushes this time. I know one is a size 6. One is a nice small one for outlines and fine details. And I think there might be a slightly larger or slightly like one in the middle there as well. I recorded this tutorial while I was crook, so I couldn't speak, so I do apologize. I'm having to speak over the top of the audio, so it may be, I'm very sorry. It's not some of my best work, but hopefully you can follow along okay. And one other thing, don't forget, I have on my website the Frida Kahlo packs. So it's got the artist focus that we do each week. It's got our artwork that we're doing. And I've also created, in case you're unsure of what you want to do or you don't really feel like doing a self-portrait just yet, I've also created up a roller portrait. So it's a roller dice like some of our previous ones. And I've just taken elements from Frida Kahlo's paintings of her own portraits and portraits she's done of other people. So we've got, again, the head, the necklace or neckline, our pets, our earrings, and a background, just to be super simple as somewhere to start. So feel free to follow along this, or you can come join us in as we go. So let's head over back to the studio. Alright, let's get underway, shall we? Alright, first of all, we're going to start off drawing the face of our portrait. So we're just, with our lead pencil, we're just going to draw nice and light on the canvas today. We've got our face happening. We also need to put a neck and shoulders in. Don't worry if these aren't perfect, because like all of our work, we're still learning. For the face, we're going to pop in some lips and eyes and nose. Don't do what I've done and gone and draw the mouth first. Divide your face up into halves vertically and then 3 down the centre. So you should have 3 blocks of face. At the lower section, what I want you to do is I want you to draw in a mouth shape at the cross between the vertical line and the horizontal line nearest the chin. Then I want you, under the top line, I want you to add in some eye shapes, and then in the middle between the two, you're going to add in kind of a funny shaped rectangle or a very elongated triangle for a nose. Once we've done that, draw in your hairline with the length of hair that you're wanting to do. So for me, my hair is about mid length, so it's just above my shoulders anyway, and it's wavy. So I've indicated this in my draft as wiggly squiggly lines. The other thing we can't forget is our ears. Our ears are from the middle on the side of the face, but to line it up, you want the middle of the eyes, and then drawing down to between the base of the nose and the top lip. So just 2 little C's will do. In our hair, we're going to decide what we want. If you want nothing in your hair, that is perfectly fine. If you just like wearing your hair out, I like to wear mine with bandanas and headbands because it's so short. It keeps the fringe out of my face. But I also do like a short fringe. So for this portrait, I'm going to have a little bit of hair under my headband, but most of it's going to go behind. Next, we're going to work out our neckline. I've decided to go with a V, and I think I'll probably make that into like a black singlet or a black shirt, because I generally like wearing black, and then with overalls or apron. So I think I'm gonna play around with that later. Next up, we are going to put some earrings on because I love my earrings. I've got 4 at the moment, but I'm just going to put 2 on this one, and then they're going to be nice, big, shiny ones. I also have pets, so I've decided to draw in one of my friends, O'Brien, the female cockatiel that is out the back of my shed. Don't forget to put legs in if you're doing birds. They don't just sit on your shoulder without perching, because otherwise they'll roll off. What type of pet do you have? Do you have a cat or a dog? Or are you like me and have some birds? Or do you have more than that? I'd love to comment below. I'd love to find out. The last thing that I'm going to do is roughly sketch what I want in the background. So I like to have plants around me. I like to be in nature, so I'm going to do some kind of nature shapes. So again, using my wiggly lines, I'm going to create some leaves. I don't know yet if I'm going to stick with the way I've drawn them in the background. We'll come to that later though. But you can do anything in the background. If you like reading, you could put a whole bunch of books in the back. If you like swimming, you can make it underwater, so you could do blue with lots and lots of bubbles. How cool would that be? Alright, now it's time to get our paint. As usual, I'm going to be using the primary colours, so I've got my cool red, my cool blue, and my cool yellow. Don't forget that you can use any colours. These three are just my favourite because they make some really bright, vibrant colours. Also going to add some black to our palette so that we can make shades of colours. And also going to add some white so we can do tints. So whenever we darken a colour, it's called a shade. And whenever we lighten a colour, it's called a tint. And our solid colours are our hues. So what we want to do is we're going to be creating, as you mix the colours together, strong vibrant colours, and then we're going to be working either darker or lighter depending on what you want. So we're going to start with our size 6 brush. I'm sorry if it's hard to see what size that actually is. Been having some issues with focusing, using a different camera this week. We're going to start off with our skin colour. So I'm going to add a brush stroke of red, a brush stroke of yellow, and a tiny dip, like pinhead size of blue, and this is going to create a brown. To this we're also going to add our white, and we're going to colour match it to our back of our hand. So what we do for this is we mix the colour together, grab on the back of your hand, just paint a stripe. And then what I want you to do is I want you to have a look at your colour. Does it look more purple? Or does it look more blue? Or does it look more green? So if you're having a look at mine, it's a bit too purple. So I've added some more yellow to it. So I've got a bit of a yellow undertone. We're then going to add this to the canvas. And we're going to paint over all the details we've drawn in, because we will still be able to see this relatively easy under the paint. Now I didn't make enough the first time round, so I had to go back and mix it again. It can be tricky to get the same colour twice, so don't panic. If it works out a bit darker or a bit lighter, don't worry. It's all a learning curve. It's even tricky sometimes to figure out exactly how much paint you need. So it took me a while to get the right colour. I went from really blue to really yellow. So you can see here the top one is quite yellow, so I added some more red into it. And that's brought me back to a relatively same colour. I think I probably should have added a bit more white to it by the looks. But you live and you learn. It certainly doesn't have to be the final layer. If you want to put more details in, this would become what's called your foundation layer. So foundation layer is when you lay your block colours down, and then you go back in and you add in your details, so your highlights, your shadows, all that type of thing. But for this one, I'm just doing it really quick. So depending on whether you want to do a 30-minute paint or a 3-hour paint is completely up to you. I would love to see your work. So make sure you message it to me. I can't wait to see your progress. And let me know how long it took you to do. So here we go again. It's kind of that muddy colour, so I've just added a bit more red to it. Alright, so here we are, we're starting to blend a bit. I've just picked up some white paint. Wasn't totally happy with the coverage, so I'm just adding in some highlights. Just to kind of balance the colour a bit, and just to... it's hard to explain really. So you'll notice that I've put a bit of colour around a bit of white around the side of the face, just to give it a bit of a 3D lift. And I've also popped some in where the nose is going to be. I've just kind of defined that shape a bit. Alright, so it looks like I'm doing some brown now. I've got some red, some blue, some yellow, and some white. We've made a type of purple colour. We've run out of white, so we're grabbing some more. Always work with less paint than you think you need for the piece. You can always get more out, but it's a lot harder to put paint away when you're finished if you've got too much out. Alright, so it looks like I'm doing a bit of colour correction here. We wanted more of a brown, I'd say. So I think we're going to go and work on our hair. If you've got it at home, an easier way to mix colours is with a palette knife. So instead of using your brush and getting your brush clogged with paint, you can using a palette knife just gives you more working paint for one, and it also helps to mix colours a bit easier. So I'm just putting in the foundation layer of my hair at this stage. Just letting you know exactly where I want it, how long I want it. And in a rough colour. So I had a really hard time trying to decide my hair because I love purple hair, and I did have purple hair for a few years, but my natural colour is brown. So instead of the purple hair, I decided to go with purple background, because purple is very much one of my favourite colours, and it's a colour that I've come to see as my colour, and a colour that represents me. I'm just going to let you guys paint for a bit. As you can see, I did end up deciding to go with an apron, with more of a pinky purple. So to make this colour, I've just added a little bit more red to my purple than I would normally do. So this matches one of the aprons I've got in the studio. But I'm just going to let you paint, and we'll come back once we're up to the face. I'm not quite up to the face yet. However, I am working on the hair here, so I thought I'd step you through this. Our hair isn't only one colour. So while we've got that base brown, because I've got brown hair, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be mixing up different shades and tints of the brown. This is so that we can put in the different strands of hair and to give our hair texture. So to do that, I'm holding my brush very lightly, and I'm just doing almost like wiggly worms, popping the dark into the closest to the face and under the neck area. But then on the top, I'm also going to need to add some highlights. I need to add in my fringe. So you'll notice that I didn't block my fringe out. This is because my hair's, as I said, my hair is curly, so my fringe isn't going to be one block colour. You're going to see my skin underneath it. And I'm just going to go in with my blacks, my whites, and my browns, and just create that really cool curly hair. If you have straight hair, you can still do the same thing. Instead of using wavy lines though, you might choose to do straight lines, or straighter lines than my waves. Or if you've got really curly hair, you might use a smaller brush and paint in with really tight, almost streamer-like curls, as though it's a celebration. And don't forget to add in your white, because our hair has a beautiful shine to it, especially when the light is hitting it. It's not just darks and lights. Alright, so painting in our face. I've just got two oval shapes for the outer of our eye. I have blue eyes, so I'm putting a blue sphere in the middle, or a blue circle. I'm just leaving the middle open for our eye, for our pupil, I believe it is. Anyway, the black part of the eye. Because we've got colour, we've got a black centre, and then we've got colour on the outside. So here I am, I picked up my really small brush. I did try to make my eyes lighter, and as you can see, I haven't had to do any mixing of colours. What I've done is I've added the white, and it's lightened the blue. And I've done that to give a bit of variation. Then I've done the black in the centre. Might have to let the eyes dry a bit before I do too much in the black. It's kind of working. And then I'm just going to paint out some of the corners of the lower lid, just to make the eyes look a little bit more natural. But again, this isn't a super realistic portrait, so it doesn't matter too much how you go about your eyes, as long as they look like eyes. And I'm just redefining the lids. So the lower lid is smaller than the top lid. You can also add some lashes if you like. I haven't, because I didn't feel like doing fiddly stuff. Still recovering. Then I'm going to go in and do two vertical lines, and then some little clouds underneath those lines to create the shape of the nose. The nose will take you practice. There are plenty of places online that you can Google different noses, like Pinterest. Choose a nose that you like the best and go with that. And then I'm going to paint in the top lip. So we want kind of a mountain on the top, and then its reflection that's more rounded on the bottom. And the mountain on top should have a little bit of a dip. If you're struggling, again, either Google or you can find a mirror and have a look in the mirror and see what you can see. See if you can copy the shape of your mouth. Then just going to come in darker and define the middle of the mouth. Underneath, anywhere that you can see shadows on your mouth, you want to pop in a darker colour. And then don't forget your highlights. So now I'm just adding in our defining features, so a gentle line between the face and the ears, and then under the chin, as you can see I've done a mistake, so I've done my water trick, where I've added some water to it, to a paintbrush, used it as an eraser, and then wiped off the excess, and then I've gone back in again with the outline. And then this is a style choice of mine. I've gone back and I'm outlining everything because I quite like the cartoony look that this ended up having. So I will make it more into an illustration. So I'm going to use my black paint and I'm going to go and line everything up with a nice black. Alright, so you'll notice that I'm coming back in the hair with just my black paint. And this is because I didn't feel that there was enough depth to my hair in my painting. It was looking a bit flat. And so by coming back with these black curls and black wiggles, it just helps to create more depth within the hair. At this point I'm also going to add in my earrings, so to continue the purple theme and not introduce another colour, I'm going to do some dark, or try to do a dark purple crystal-y earring, and I want them nice and big so that they're the only jewellery I've got in here. I want them to not overtake, but I want them to be big. I want them to be statement pieces. And then of course just adding in that white to create a bit of a fake shine. And then going back and continuing to outline. Alright, so now I'm just adding some leaves to the background. I decided to go in a different direction, so I picked up my size 6 brush again, and I want these leaves to be a bit more organic, a bit more free flowing, but almost reminiscent of gum leaves or tea tree leaves, or some of the leaves that we see in the Australian bush. So I'm just putting in the shapes, and then I'll roughly come back and I'll do a quick outline and a line through the middle just to confirm, just to kind of show that they are leaves. And you'll see that I'm doing different colours of green, because not all leaves are the same colour. So after I finished my leaves, I decided I wanted to put in some native flowers. I can't remember what these are called, but essentially there is almost like a nutshell on the bottom with half a pom-pom sticking out the top. They're one of my favourite flowers, very quintessentially Australian, and I just feel that they work really well with this, because we're telling our story essentially through our self-portrait. So this is giving the story of living in Australia. This is what we see a lot. To these little nutshells, I'm going to just almost just use a really fine brush and just flick it outwards with yellow and red to create this pom-pom of the flower. Alright, so now we're going to add in the pet that I completely forgot about earlier, but that's okay because the black is actually going to work for me. My cockatiel is a cinnamon cockatiel, so she is yellow and grey with white on her body. So I'm going to make this work for me. So I'm going to add in some yellow for her wings, some orange for her beak and her cheeks. So cockatiels are an Australian parrot and they're best known for their bright orange cheeks. They're absolutely adorable and it looks like they're blushing all the time. Because they're parrots, they've also got the feathers out the top of their head called the crest. It's really important that we put these in. because it distinguishes them from a budgie or other types of birds. And here we go, just putting the final finishing touches on, just making some of these outlines a bit darker. I hope
Mama!
Yes, Lily.
What are you doing?
Just doing a video. And then I'll be in. Off you go, please.